Hey, this is Steve Whittier. Welcome to the series. First thing we're going to start talking about today is going into a review of the basic guard model that I always like to teach as the foundation. It's sort of the cake batter as opposed to the frosting, which would be the individual techniques that you might use for your guard. So this is foundational. This is what we spend a lot of time just drilling in terms of the core postures, and then starting to work with progressive resistance just on the movement, the roots, and these core principles. This is the guard training model. It's a 5-point model that we always start, and everything will come once you've established a good basis of skill set with this group of principles. Okay. So first thing, anytime I'm playing guard, and right now in this set we're going to focus specifically more on playing off your back. Okay, I've already gone into a lot of in my 40 plus BJJ series, a lot of upright guard, which is a very active guard, and it's a very good guard to play to keep you from getting stacked. But if you are pushed onto your back, or you like to attack from your back, this is what we're going to be talking about all the time here. So starting off, this is a bit of a review. From here, the first thing is all the time with the assisted here by Mike, if he's got grips on me, what have you, all the time I want to start off keeping him lined up. So whether I'm angled in here or I'm upside down facing him, however, I always want to be knowing exactly where he is. He's lined up kind of 12 to 6 with me, and my knees are to my chest. Okay, knees to chest is very important. From here, as soon as I get overextended, it's very easy for him to just step around. He can just go with it, and now I've essentially exposed this space to him. So one of the criteria for passing the guard in most passes is going to be your opponent separating your knees from your chest. So I always got to make sure that I close that off. So the exception would be if I can create some sort of grip on the upper body and get a push-pull type of action where I can now start to stretch Mike out. Now that's a different story. Now I'm actually extending my knees from my chest with good technique and good purpose. But before that, I always want to be thinking knees to my chest. I make myself a ball. It's going to be very hard for him to get into that space, and I always have the chance to recover my guard as early as possible. Okay, now the second principle is going to be my leg and foot position, leg and or foot position. So from here, the key thing to keep in mind is that when you're playing guard, it's not just a matter of having your legs in between you and your opponent, even though that's important. It's also having your legs in between you and your opponent and creating attachments. So that means that wherever my legs or my feet are in contact with my opponent, there has to be pressure. So if I, for instance, put a hook in here, my foot shouldn't be relaxed. It shouldn't be too slack. It should always have a little bit of pressure in there. That doesn't mean my whole leg is tensed up and straining with effort. What it means is that I've transferred some weight. If I have a foot on the hip from here and Mike's giving me pressure, it's like a monkey paw gripping in. A foot on his thigh, transferring weight from my hip on the lifting off the mat onto the foot. If I have grips with the biceps, again, kind of monkey paw action in here, and always pressure, pressure, pressure. Okay. So what that does is a couple of important things. Number one, it creates an attachment, so it's very hard for him to release that. And number two, it's another set of eyes for you. It's your feelers. Okay, it's like your antenna, tactile sensitivity. So I don't have to see what he's doing. I can feel what he's doing. I can feel his intention. I can stay with him and know when he's trying to beat my position at a given time, so I can either maintain it or move to another position to counter. Next principle in here is grips. And again, the grip game, especially with the gi, is huge. Also important for no gi, but it becomes more sophisticated with the gi, obviously, because the grips are that much tighter. So from here, the whole thing is whoever gets dominant grips and acts on them the quickest will usually win the exchange. So anytime I can get dominant grips right away, I want to use them. I want to get them and go, start to use my technique. Anytime Mike has dominant grips, I'm always thinking to retract my knees to my chest, okay? Making sure I have good grips in here, and I'm always looking to re-pummel or to break his grips. So from here like this, he's got good inside position, he's got good base, so I would from here have to be thinking about immediately using some sort of motion to break the grip so that I can then start to spin back in, or make some sort of attachment to him so I can then pummel, so even if I don't break the grip, I've essentially got some sort of inside position again so he can't just walk around and pass. But whole principle there is grips, 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 act on them, get grips with good posture, and go as soon as possible. If you lose the grip exchange, you have to bust a move without hesitation to recover and either break the grips or regain inside position. All right, and the next principle here is hip movement, which also has to do with angles. So a lot of times you'll find that when you get stuck playing from your back and you're getting passed consistently, getting stacked, getting uncomfortable positions, it's often because your partner just gets a read on you and they're able to kind of take advantage of the fact that you're playing too stationary. So I can be in a certain space, occupying that space, but I want to be starting to play off my hip, attacking at angles. For instance, big difference between me just having a guard here and staying here for too long, trying to attack while Mike has good elbows inside, he's got good inside grips, versus me getting off at an angle like this where I'm playing off my hip, and now I've created opportunities. Okay? It's very difficult for him now to just pass. He's got to recover from the fact that I'm already attacking his posture and I'm creating some space open in here, so even if he wants to keep that grip, he's very outstretched, possible for me to start to come in here, go for different types of attacks. So one of the keys to playing a higher level guard, even if you have a fairly basic game in terms of your technical possibilities, maybe you only have a very simple set of routes that you play, that's no problem. The thing is though, what will make that an advanced guard is not only your timing and your execution, but it will also be your ability to consistently change your angles and keep the pressure on the other person adjusting to what you're trying to do rather than just going ahead and passing because they have a read on your position. Okay, now for the last part, now that we've done basically all the steps for guard retention, the first four, okay, maintaining knees to chest and always have your legs between you and your opponent, keeping them always in line with you. Number two, foot placement, pressure, always maintaining pressure with your feet and legs. Three is the grips, always trying to get dominant grips or recover if you've lost the grip game. And after that, we're looking at angles, hip movement. Now the last part will be the actual attack. So part of your guard retention will always be the offense. So best defense is a good offense, as I've talked about quite a few times before in the 40 Plus series. Now from here, I always want to start to accentuate my guard by keeping constant threats to Mike that he has to worry about being submitted, swept, or having me sit or stand up out of the guard at any given time. So it's always those pressures being cycled while I'm maintaining my guard. Now he's got to worry about surviving, not passing. So from here, at any given point, as I'm moving around, okay, there could be my submission attempts, my entry there for a triangle, for instance. I'm moving out, I'm looking for a sweep. Okay, he defends, I'm turning it into another sweep, or at any point, he starts to really hunker down his base, and I have the ability to actually sit right out of that and maybe turn it into another reversal, or I just get out of dodge because I don't like the fact that he's giving me a lot of passing pressure. That also is an attacking pressure, by the way, to be able to sit or stand up out of the guard. So when you can really effectively cycle those, much, much harder for the person to relax at any point so that they can get their grips in their position to pass. All right, let's go through just a few more principles, core principles for good guard maintenance and control and attacking as well. So take a look at common passing posture. So say I'm the guard passer, you're down here trying to play guard, and I've got a good posture, my back is straight, my elbows are in, lowering my center of gravity, not giving too much space down here. Now from here, if I'm the guard player, what I like to do is analyze somebody else's posture. And I'm always thinking, basically, in terms of setting up points to sweep somebody into, to unbalance them, if I can take their posture and break it, if I can take their base and compromise it, that's where all my offense is going to come in, and that's where I can keep them from focusing on their offense, which would be the pass. Okay, so I look at it very simply in terms of upper hemisphere, lower hemisphere. So if I can stretch somebody out with upper body grips, okay, somebody's got, say, my lapel, my sleeves, you can see my posture is broken. Okay, if I can start to attack somebody's base, kicking out a leg, for instance, getting an angle and starting to get them to step to an angle themselves, that's attacking their base. They don't have a good, solid footing under them anymore. So if you can start doing those things all the time, then great. Now if they are able to come up here like this and say hip in so I can't get a good upper body grip, then everything will now be focused on just lower hemisphere and I lose this, but now I can start to work on ways to break posture by maybe attacking the legs more and then regaining those grips as they go to recover. So upper hemisphere, grips stretching them out. Lower hemisphere, your grips start to shift towards lower body control, and then you start to work down there. And the other thing is thinking left side or right side, so quadrants, and we'll go into this a bit with some of the different guards that we'll play, where at any given point, maybe I've got somebody stretched out here, and I'm opening up places for them to be swept. Maybe I have them here, opening up places for them to be swept. So at any given point, kind of looking at the vulnerable points in their base and posture, and we just keep attacking those and cycling, and as soon as we lose one possibility, we're switching our grips and our angle to attack another possibility. One other principle I want to talk about, this is something that I came up with as a part of the coaching apparatus some time ago, is the idea of primary threat. So this has to do with your guard retention, first and foremost, but I always want to be retaining my guard at the earliest possible possibility. I don't want to have somebody advance deep into my hips, for instance. If I could have prevented that before, that means I lost something in terms of my posture or my guard control. However, it happens, obviously, and the better your opponents get, if you're a teacher, the better your students get, because your coaching is good, the more challenges you're going to get with it. So from here, I always want to think about what is the primary threat, because a lot of times what you'll find is people are having frustrations with their guard is that they're focusing on the wrong thing. So I'll give you one particular technique, and we'll look at it as an example, but this would apply to any type of guard pass that my partner could do. So let's say Mike is doing a pass that gives you really tight control in here, like an over-under pass, where he's got really good pressure on my hip, so he's going to drop his shoulder into my hip. Now from here, a lot of times, what you'll see is that Mike will get in this position, and all I start to do is start to push in here on his body. Okay? So if you look at it like this, the primary threat is not his body, because this is going to come around at this point no matter what. And the most I'm going to do is slow down the process by making a frame here. That's very temporary. He's still going to be able to dominate my hips and legs, start to lose my hook. He comes around, and now he's going to start to advance up my body. So from here, first thing is, if Mike starts to get into that, I already lost something, because you can see he's already beat my feet, my shins, and he's already advanced up the chain of progression into a guard pass. But now let's say he starts to come into position, so primary threat at this point would be his head and his shoulder being able to lock down on my hips. He hasn't quite gotten it. So if I could intercept at this point, now that I've lost the leg battle or the foot battle, now from here, maybe I move his head offline, and now I'm able to come up and start to counter his angle before he can bury the head into my hip. That's a primary threat at that point, not his body. Now if he does manage to get his head in there in time, and he's locked this position in, me pushing on his body is not going to help. Now at this point, I've got to think about what's controlling my leg and hip, which now is this grip. So from here, I go down, and I can either grab his wrist or the bottom of his sleeve. And now from here, Mike's got my hips pretty well dominated, but if I can release this knee and get my hips back into play, I'll still have my guard. So as Mike starts to lock on from here, he's fighting to come around. Now I'm just moving a little bit, keeping his arm stationary so I can move my hips. So it'll be a bit of a battle, but look, as soon as I can point my knee past his arm, now I'm back into play again, and I have a guard to start to work with. Okay, so primary threat in there, always analyzing anytime you're getting passed consistently from a position and it's frustrating to you. Start to look at your posture. Where did you go wrong? Where was your positioning off? And then if somebody's doing a good job of beating that with their timing, then immediately thinking, what's my primary threat? What is their control position on me that's going to allow them to progress at that point? If I can beat that and create space to get my guard back, that's where I can start to make it look like my guard is much higher level, just because I'm addressing the right thing at the right time. All right, first thing we're going to be going over here now in terms of technique is primarily working open guard here for my back, but let's talk about transitioning from closed guard, because if you do have a closed guard,
one of the things I find is that people can have a really good open guard, they can have some moves from closed guard or some roots, but as soon as there's that middle zone where I'm either trying to open my guard or Mike is just about to pop my legs open, that's where I lose it. He'll get good grips on me and be able to pass there every time. And people start to freak out and flail and start to do things that aren't very technical. So from here, if I know I want to open closed guard, number of different grips. I could control where his sleeves are. I could be going for a collar and sleeve grip. I could just frame on his body somehow and move my hips away. So go through a few common possibilities here that will keep you pretty safe. So first one is, Mike has good base and posture. I want to open my guard or he's about to pop my ankles open. So from here, I'm just going to get sleeve grips, and recommendation always, there's no thumbs inside. So 4 fingers and turn or pistol grip. So from here, once I have this, normally this is a very strong position in terms of being able to pull or keep your arms from being pulled away from you. But in this case, just to make sure he can't pull his arms back as easily, I'm going to flare my elbows out and give a little pulling pressure this way, just to keep his arms where they are, not to move them forward. And now from here, see just a small bit of space that Mike has in here as he connects his elbow to my thigh to create his frame is what I'm going to get into, okay? I just need to get into that space momentarily and get inside position. So from here, I switch my hip, and now you'll see that when I do this, I don't just let my legs go because he could pop right out. He could just move backwards with his hips and start to get combat base, exactly. Or maybe step over my leg. So as I open, I switch, but I keep my legs tight here. And now all I'm going to do is take this foot, put it on the mat, and I scoot just slightly, point my knee inside, and then I turn it out. And I'm starting to blow pressure out that way inside his thigh. Now from here, I can keep this grip, turn, and do the same thing on this side, and I can start to come into an inside position of any type. Okay, it could turn into spider guard, could be a shin position. Okay, moving around from here, I could grab onto his pant leg, whatever types of grips you want at that point, but that will give you the inside position and control the whole way through. Okay, from here, the next one. So let's say I have a sleeve grip in here. I come down and I get a grip on Mike's pant legs. By the way, little trick in here, if you try and reach down and there's no slack, you just want to give your partner a little jostle with your legs, and then there's a momentary point there where even somebody's pant legs are very tight or they've got really big thighs, you get that little bit of a grip, and now you can always get that. So from here, one of the things I can do is, as I feel Mike in here, he's got his elbows in really tight, is I'm just going to put my foot on his hip and start to bring that in tight. And now I use his foot, or my foot on his hip, just as a momentary fulcrum there to boom myself out until I can put this one on the hip. And now from here, I know exactly where he is on both sides. Now I can, without having to use too much flexibility, bring my foot inside, point my toe in, and then get this threaded position. I went to a whole game from here in the 40 Plus series, but from here, this is a nice way to enter into that and get an inside position. You also notice that at this point, if his elbow's starting to come up a little bit, I could also go back to the first one and point my knee underneath. But a lot of times he may be really just trying to bury that in. So from here, I move out, bring my knee to my chest, loop this in, and now I can dig for that foot while still maintaining control on the other side the entire time. Okay, one more time from the other angle. Sleeve grip here, other side is on the knee. So from here, say Mike's really got his arm turned, he's got his elbow buried in tight, very hard for me to get my knee in at all. So from here, I'm going to put my foot on his hip, pinch in tight, and now, once I have that, my hip is slightly off the mat, I move out, keeping this grip tight until I can put my foot on the other hip as well. Now from here, I just bring my knee to my chest, loop around, don't kick him in the face, my foot comes inside, now I can find that hook with my foot and turn my knee out, so now I've got that nice threaded inside position, threaded spider guard. Okay, let's look at a couple other possibilities in here. So now I open to be able to get my grip inside, 4 fingers inside for a cross grip on the lapel. Other side is on the sleeve. Now from here, obviously at any point that there's some space, I can come into, say, a scissor sweep position. Again, opening and never just opening my legs, but always keeping a clamp on him. I slide in, and now I slide my knee in, and now I can start to play from here. And that can act as a guard, not just as a sweep. But if Mike's doing a good job of really keeping his elbows in, sometimes from here as I have this, I open, I put my foot in, and now I'm just bringing this knee and shin across his bicep. Now from here I push away slightly by pushing on my shin until my foot comes to his hip. And now this is great from here because he has to respond to this, he has to respect it. If he does nothing, it's a beautiful setup to go right into a triangle choke. So that's a great position. As soon as he feels that he's got that shin across his bicep, he's got one arm in, one arm out essentially, and he's going to have to really hunker down to respect that. That means that I can move my hips back and start to just play open guard, sit up out of the position altogether if I'd like. But if he stays static, just go ahead and start to attack in there. So again, open, 4 fingers in. Now from here, put my foot on the mat, and I scoot this across until my foot can come here. Now, if he just starts to hunker down, right, I can come in and start to come right back to a sitting guard, for instance, or I could just play here and start to go for any type of open guard attacks that I like to play. But it's a nice way to put a threat on him so he has to worry about defense, and then he can just start to open up your game. Okay, from here, another way that I like to open up sometimes, if I'm on my back and I'm trying to continue to play off my back, is to actually turn this into, very quickly shift from opening my guard up to going into a submission attempt or a sweep. One of my favorite ways to go into that is to basically start to do jumping my hips into an omoplata. And I'm aware that he may recover. If I don't hit it, I can turn it into a sweep. I can turn it back into a triangle. You know, anytime there's one arm in, one arm out, you've got that whole series there. What I'm trying to do from here is really make it so that as I open my guard, I'm automatically going into some sort of attacking posture that is going to be conducive to just putting pressure on him and now starting to play open. So from here, I'm going to be getting a cross grip, 4 fingers in, cross grip or pistol grip on Mike's arm. Okay, so left to left or right to right. My other hand comes down and grabs right at the base of his pant legs, and I'm getting a pistol grip down there. And what happens, as soon as Mike's starting to move back to go into his position from here, okay, I'm holding on to the leg, and what will happen sometimes is he may have to start to switch and go the other direction. Okay, he may have to switch his grips, start to come back the other way, right? Now, as soon as I create this separation here, because I'm holding onto his leg, that's where I'm going to go. So from here, just hopping my hips up into his armpit, and even if he's got a good frame here, watch how I have the angle to beat it. So right as Mike starts to go backwards, right here. Okay, I just bring my hips up into him and turn my angle, and now as soon as I can chop down from here, I punch his leg out and go to the side. That would be going right into the plata position. Of course, if he tucks his head and rolls, I can turn it into a sweep, but even if he manages to keep his base and turn back into me, now my open guard is on, and I'm already in attack mode. So, one more time. Mike has grips, I get a cross grip. I could just be here as well. So if I have this, but in this case I could just attack. Sometimes though what will happen is you get a cross grip and you're just trying to slow him down from getting his knee in. So from here, he's trying to get his knee in, but I'm holding on to this side, kind of frustrating. So now he just starts to switch his grips and go the other way. And now he's just thinking about trying to beat your grips, but actually he's opening this up. So right from here, start to move, hop your hips up, chop down. I punch his leg out away from me diagonally to clear his base, and then immediately before he can bring his knees back underneath him and get base, I come up and hug, get a little bit of an angle, and now from here, sit up for the submission. Always making sure you don't lead with your head, but leading with your hips. And then if he tucks his head, you can also turn that into the roll. Okay, this last one will be if I'm trying to transition into a sitting guard first, and then from there I always have the choice of going back to my back and stretching him out and starting to play from more of a traditional on your back guard. So from here, open, Get 4 fingers in the cross grip, and Mike has all good grips himself, and he's starting to go back against my legs. What I'm going to do here is, again, I do the opening technique we talked about and get that slight angle that I've done several times. So I open my legs and I turn, but now what I'm going to do is bring my elbow behind me, put it on the mat and have a post, and now from here, I just slide back until my foot can touch, and now I'm up. So from here, you could automatically start to go for chokes, or I can just simply retract, playing here as he gets grips to face me. Now, here's where I can dive back into my on the back guard, whatever type of style I like to play from there. But it's a good way just to move yourself back with a good post, and you're basically framing on his body with your grip. Slide my hips back while maintaining contact with where Mike's shoulders are, and now my legs and hips are back into play. All right, one more time live.